Hey everyone, I'm Caryn Solomon, and welcome to What's IGN Crushing On, IGN Africa's official entertainment podcast. I'm your host, and I'm joined as always by my producer and editor Rebecca Barches. So this is a show where we discuss all things entertainment and pop culture with a new guest every week. We bring recommendations, news, and fun facts, sometimes touching on the more serious issues surrounding these topics. Welcome to 2021. We hope that this year brings you love, joy, and happiness. And even though we still have to stay at home and take precautions, I kind of hope that we can still make the most of the year. This week's guest is Sibongile Mafu. She's a presenter on KFM Mornings, an editor, writer, all-round cool human. And we spoke about a range of topics, like how she gets up so early in the morning, Amazing Race, being a woman in sports journalism, and how admirable Chloe and Halle are. So, we don't want to keep you too long. Here's our interview with Sibongile. How are you? How has your year been?
How has my year been? Well, I started optimistic. I welcomed 2020 with a vision board. There were all kinds of exciting things on there. I was going to go on my first big vacation. I was going to exercise. I was, going to spend more time with family and all of this. And then 2020 said, my sister, think again. Think again. And all of those plans were halted and we were locked down for a significant period of time when we were on level 4 and level 5. And I was by myself. I mean, I didn't see my boyfriend during the most, the beginning part of the year. So for about 4 or 5 months, we were apart. My parents are in PE. I'm in Cape Town, so obviously didn't see them. My brother's in Joburg, didn't see him. So it was a very lonely time, but I still had the privilege of going into work every morning, which was great. And doing the radio show, waking up the province, trying to remain positive, keep people in a good space, which is not always easy. People were losing loved ones and people were losing jobs. And then you have to try and pick them up every morning, or at least try to soften all of the hard things that were going on in their lives. And that was what we were trying to do every day with the radio show. So still very privileged to have been able to do that uninterrupted this year. And very, very proud of the work that the team did, because it wasn't easy even on us. I mean, we also were dealing with a lot, but we showed up for work every day. Yeah.
Isn't it really difficult having to be positive for other people every day?
I feel like I feel like I'm on the most chaotic reality TV show where you show up and it's wild and it's this roller coaster, and then you get off and you breathe again. But it isn't easy. A lot of people assume that you do 3 hours on the radio, it's fun, and then you go home and nap for the rest of the day. The naps do happen, but the work that goes behind being enthusiastic, showing up every day, doing your best while hundreds of thousands of people are listening and leaning on you to be their escape is something that still challenges me to this day, and I've been doing this for 5-6 years now. And I don't think that feeling of responsibility ever goes away. But then again, I also look at this part of my life as a very special chapter where my life will never look the way that it does now. So I'm kind of enjoying the ride and all of the wonderful opportunities that come with it, and being able to connect with people the way that we do is something very, very special. And there are very few industries that provide that opportunity for people. So still very grateful, but goodness me, I am tired. Can I just sleep in?
Sleep in? I have to know this. What time?
Hey?
What time do you
What
wake
time do
up?
I get up in the... Okay, so when I'm good, so when I have my shit together and I sleep at a reasonable hour the night before, I wake up at 4 o'clock. This is when everything aligns perfectly. I'm able to do my makeup in the morning. I'm able to take a longer shower. I'm not running out the door. When I'm bad, which is 90% of the time, I wake up at about 5 o'clock and I need to be in studio by 5:30 for the show to start at 6. So fortunately for us, we have an amazing producer team. So a lot of the hard work happens behind the scenes and a lot of the hard work happens the day before. Because for us presenters, the more sleep we can get, the better it is for everybody. For everybody. There is peace in the world if presenters are able to get their 8 hours in.
I would need like about 3 hours to wake up before I'm even like lucid, let alone being positive and encouraging other people.
It's like a switch at this point. I mean, in Toy Story with Buzz Lightyear, when he has his off and on switch, that's what it feels like sometimes. It kind of all like these Buzz Lightyears that snap into action when we need to. And not everybody can do it, but it's a lot of fun when we're on.
So tell me more like about you. Where did you grow up? Your history?
So I grew up in PE. My parents are both teachers. I have an older brother as well. And my PE upbringing was interesting in the sense that I traveled about 90 minutes to school every day on the bus.
Sure.
So I think that actually prepped me for the early mornings. It was like military training. And my parents were very hands-on teachers. So I say they didn't have just my brother and I, they were raising classrooms of kids. So that's what my childhood always felt like. It felt like we were a bigger family than we actually were. My parents both taught in township schools, and I went to a former Model C school in town. So I was kind of part of these two worlds in PE, and I was afforded incredible opportunities at the high school that I went to. And then I grew up and had to decide what I wanted to do with my life. And fortunately for me, my parents didn't fight me when I told them that I wanted to do journalism at Rhodes. I thought they'd push back and either want me to go into teaching, which they said, don't.
Yeah, my mom's a teacher too. She said exactly the same thing.
My mom was like, yeah, my baby, rethink that. Let's look at alternatives. And in standard one, I thought I was going to be a doctor. And my maths mark said, no way. And then I decided that I really enjoyed the communication space, the media space, and I wanted to kind of explore what kind of journalism I wanted to do, or what options were available out there. So I went to Rhodes, and of course, not too far away from PE, in Grahamstown, or Makhanda as it is known now. And so packed my bags and hit the road and went to go study journalism for 4 years at Rhodes. And that's where the radio journey began, which was great because I kind of described my radio career as this combination of timing and luck and obviously my enthusiasm to do it. And that's how it kind of all fell into place. I auditioned to work at the campus radio station at Rhodes. And that was in my first year, right at the beginning of my first year. And I got in. And I was surprised I got in because so many people had told me that, you have to audition quite a few times to work at the radio station. I looked at them and I said, listen, I nailed it, okay? I nailed that audition and they want me in. So I think that was the first kind of confidence boost for me, that maybe radio was a space that I could play in and excel in. And that affirmation that I needed that I was good. So started working at that radio station. And with campus radio, those who know will tell you that you do everything, okay? You are a producer, you'll read the news, you'll read your own traffic, you'll host the show, you'll be your own engineer. Sometimes there'd be a news bulletin where you're reading a story and you are the reporter in the story introducing yourself. That's how hands-on campus radio was. I'm Sibongile Mafu crossing over to Sibongile Mafu. And I loved it. I loved how every part of the show I touched. I was influencing, I was managing.
Yeah.
And my confidence grew because of that, because I was literally thrown into the deep end, told you are good enough to do this. And I ran with it. So that for me was the beginning of this media journey, so to speak.
Okay.
And then find myself here, moved to Cape Town, worked behind the scenes at Prime Media for a couple of years, and then got the opportunity to get on air. And I've been on the breakfast show there now for 5-6 years.
Sure. So did you work in like sports reporting or, or did you was that always a space that you enjoyed?
So I'm interested in so many things, which is a blessing and a curse, because the world is big and amazing and there's so much going on and I want to tap into all of it. But sport, the love for that started when I was young, growing up in a sports-loving household with my dad who loved football and rugby, and my brother who played rugby, and also a sports-loving city. So Port Elizabeth is sports mad. We love our rugby, we love our cricket, we love our football. So it was just everywhere. And I loved going to games with my family. I loved listening to cricket on the radio, watching sports on television. But I didn't know that you could actually make money talking about people playing on a field. I was like, what is this? People can make a living talking about other people doing the hard work. That's crazy. And then when I got to roads, I started to see the different options, types of, journalism that you could do, and sport being an option. And because at the campus radio station, I was doing so much, I needed to kind of have a conversation to myself and say, what is it that gives me the most joy? And what do I walk away missing the most? And kind of sports anchoring was one of them. I loved telling sports stories. I loved interviewing athletes, managers. I loved going to sports games and reflecting that on air. And that's where it began, where I made the joke about being the reporter and the anchor, and it became that. I was running around and capturing all of these stories in the city, and I loved it. So I thought, okay, let me look at this as an option, but also in the back of my mind, still with that general love of radio.
Yeah.
Where I thought, okay, if I graduate, I could work in so many different spaces because I love them all, whether it is producing, whether it is anchoring my own show, whether it is sports anchoring. I'm equipped enough to be able to nail, any of those jobs, which was one of the things that school gave me, kind of being this jack of all trades, but having the degree behind me to give me kind of, that credibility out there.
So being a woman in sports broadcasting, how tough is it? Like, I want to know. I can't even imagine.
I mean, we talk about the bro culture.
Yeah.
And that permeates in most of, the sports environment that you work in, whether it is in broadcasting or whether it is in the professional sporting space, if you're an athlete, a female athlete in the sporting space. But in broadcasting in particular, it's tough because it takes you a bit longer to get in, to get that trust, not only from your fellow professionals who are mostly men, but that's changing now, but also from fans, from listeners, from viewers who, because they haven't heard or seen women in that space often, there's a mistrust of our capabilities. So every day you show up to work, you have to try and convince Johnny and Sivuyile and Thomas that you belong there. And you have authority in what you're talking about, can sometimes be very frustrating because it distracts from the actual work. because you're too busy trying to convince them that
Mm.
you should be there. So that's been frustrating. But then on the other hand, there's also been so many prominent, visible sports broadcasters who are women that have been there for so long that have kind of made stepping into the space a bit easier. I mean, I always say that when I leave my chair or when I walk away from what I do, I hope it's easier for the next person who comes in, the next woman who comes in. And that's how I felt, with your Carol Chabalalas, with your Motsidi Mohono. And for me, that is important, where we need to see each other in the space that we're in, so that when we do leave, it's easier for the next one.
Yeah. Have you also noticed that, like, with the increase in the amount of like female sports journalists, there's been, I just feel like like we see more about like female athletes, like, women's teams that we, especially in South Africa, that we didn't see before. Do you think that's like a
Yeah.
conscious change that is happening, or?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the stories that I hear now during a sports bulletin, for example, are completely different to the stories I heard 10 years ago, where it was just men reflected in the news bulletins. The only time you heard of, female athletes was when the Olympics rolled around, or when there's a tennis tournament, Serena's doing a thing. But now you start to see the shift of us reflecting more of our local athletes, the women who are doing incredible things in the cricket space, in the football space. And I must say also that goes down to winning. Do you know what I mean? The people are paying attention because, for instance, Banyana are bringing trophies, and it shouldn't be like that. The support should have been there long ago. Who knows how far these teams would be now if they had been given all of the opportunities that the men were given. But they still are doing the things even with the limited resources that they have. So definitely the shift is happening, and there's a deliberate choice to reflect these stories. Just like you choose to reflect Bafana Bafana in your bulletins, or you choose to reflect the Proteas men's team in your bulletins. You need to reflect what the netball women are doing. You need to reflect what Banyana is doing. You need to reflect what the women in the swimming pool are doing. So those are decisions that you make every day, and they have such a huge impact on how people follow the sport, how people follow the athletes, how people follow the teams. Because the more you talk about it, the more interest you create. And the more you are excited about it, the more others get to be excited about it. So for me, it is that whole thing of make that deliberate choice to reflect the stories.
So you guys have interviewed like a lot of amazing people. So who's been your favorite this far?
Oh, gosh. So Shalene Surti Richards was hilarious and bubbly, and she's like a shot of adrenaline, And I mean, we do a show every morning where we have to be the adrenaline for everybody else. So it's so refreshing when someone comes into studio and not only matches our energy, but exceeds it. And she was that, just so wise, so honest. And, we made a joke about the fact that she was in the tabloids and she was dating a Ben 10. She was dating a Ben 10 at the time. And, she'll laugh about it, and she'll, she's so playful. And, when you look at somebody like that who's been in the entertainment industry for so long and still has a sense of humor about life and can still laugh and joke with you and share her wisdom, it kind of is a privilege to share the mic with her in that moment. So she was definitely up there. And also we've had some incredible international celebrity interviews as well. John Legend is always lovely. He loves South Africa so much. I don't know when Cyril's going to be giving him South African citizenship, the way he loves to talk about South Africa and visit South Africa.
Yeah, he's here like every 2 years. He's
every 2 years.
Yeah, more than some people's parents.
Honestly. And so for him, talking to him is always cool because the John Legend part kind of falls away, and you're just talking to somebody who loves to travel and loves music and loves the country where you're from, and it's kind of cool to connect that way, because then all of the other stuff doesn't become important, the superstardom and all of that, and you're just talking to another human being. So he was really great.
Okay, so who would be your dream interview if you could interview anybody?
Okay, I'm scratching Beyonce off the list.
I was so sure you were going to say Beyonce.
Because she only gives interviews to Vogue magazine. So maybe my goal should be to get to Vogue so that I can one day interview Beyonce. So she's on the list, obviously. And do you know what? I might give a surprising answer, because I mean they are so young, and their careers are just starting to kind of come up. But Chloe and Halle are, I don't know, man, they're so young and so talented. And every time I watch them perform or listen to their music, it kind of takes me back to when I was young. And had I got it together sooner, maybe I would have been like them. Just so brilliant at that young age. And young, I mean, I'm 32 now, and I'm always kind of fascinated by people in their early 20s and what kind of they're doing with their talents and the opportunities given to them, and their rise, especially over the last year, and the work that they've put in terms of their careers and their music and their live performances. And their incredible album, Ungodly Hour, for me it's very satisfying to watch as like an auntie, and kind of, they've really kind of elevated the music space for their age group. They've set a really great standard. And I want to look at them in the eye and I'm like, do you realize what you're doing? Do you realize that you are a moment in history, that you are deserving, that, that I'm so appreciative to be alive to witness how talented the both of you are. And the fact that you are related is absolutely disgusting, because two talented people like that should not be in the same family. One of you needs to be a failure. Come on. We need balance.
Are there only two children?
I think so. I'm not sure, but
definitely like a dad child, like a third one.
We need to research the dad child.
You hide them in the attic or something like that.
Who is that? Where's their YouTube channels? So I think for me, I enjoy interviews that not only can reflect on a life well lived, like Xerty Richards, but also the beginning, the amazing opportunities that will still lie ahead, the amazing stories that are yet to be told. So they, for me, are an interview that I'd really, really love to do.
And plus, they could probably introduce you to Beyonce.
That's low key also why I'd love to interview them. They are practically Beyonce's children. Okay.
No, but they have done amazing work this year, and they're so subtle about what they, like, it doesn't ever feel like it's being forced or anything like that. They're just hardworking, doing their thing. I was watching Quincy Jones's documentary, and they like pop up in there in like a second, and they're just like, and he's telling them about how much of a fan he is of them, and they were like crying. They were like, we're such a fan of you. And it's just, they just seem so humble and such lovely girls. Like, now also sound like auntie.
We are like, it really is like we're rooting for you. And they've also put up some incredible, I call them, lockdown performances, because obviously they haven't been able to perform on the big stages in front of the big crowds this year. But I'm so grateful that the standard has still been so high with these, I use the word muted kind of loosely because the performances are in no way muted. They put on a show. But it kind of made you hone in on their talent and their abilities a bit more with these kind of more intimate, focused performances. I was recently watching their Tiny Desk performance with NPR. So Tiny Desk is now doing the Tiny Desk home concerts, and the two of them were on there with this incredible band behind them, and they were literally barefoot in their pajamas, sitting on a desk singing. They weren't even singing; they were singing, and they looked like they were in their bedrooms just playing around. But the talent and you could see just the work behind their craft was on full display, even for something that looked so relaxed, seemed so effortless. But you could see that, the detail and the thought in production and arrangement that was behind that is something that I admire so much. And for them to be so switched on at their age also blows my mind, because I don't know what you were doing at 22, but I was
definitely not that.
Picking up the pieces from a night out, a heavy night out. So very, very excited for them and their future.
Yeah, this is them now. I can't wait to see. And now Halle is in The Little Mermaid. It's Halle.
The Little Mermaid.
Yes.
And the thing is, people were excited when she was announced, right? As the lead and Ariel, and as Ariel. And some people were also a bit nervous because, she hasn't had a big acting role, a big movie role yet. And to be plunged into a movie so big, they were like, can she do it? And I think this year really did skyrocket them into the next level, where now people are excited to see her in it. They actually can't wait to see her in the role and just what she can do with it. So in more ways than one, this pandemic has brought so many terrible things, but also so many beautiful things. And Chloe and Halle were a gift this year. At least got me through.
So I used to really enjoy your Bachelor live tweets. I really did. So how excited are you for The Bachelorette, and what do you think it will be like? Because I see they're filming now, and under the pandemic, it's going to be wild.
Oh yes, Bachelorette essay with Qiniso, which is coming out in February, if I'm not mistaken, in 2021. So I'll be brutally honest. The Bachelor essay first 2 seasons, I feel like we got ourselves excited because it was new. We've been waiting for it for so long. And I think the audience made it the success that it was, right?
Yeah.
But the shows themselves were very underwhelming for a lot of people. The Bachelors were pretty underwhelming. You kind of tuned in every season hoping that something was going to happen, or that it would get you hooked. But I think we were watching for hope more than anything. Hope to be entertained.
Exactly.
And I don't think they ever got out of first gear per se. And that could be a combination of things. It could be a combination of it's new and we're trying this out and we're still figuring out the growing pains. It could be the fact that they didn't get the right bachelors for those 2 seasons. I'm not sure. People who are ready for that process. And also perhaps, contestants who didn't realize what they were getting themselves into maybe, and were kind of also a bit let down, just like viewers were let down a little bit with the experience. So what I'm hoping with Uqiniso, who I thoroughly enjoyed as a contestant on The Bachelor, because she's just energetic, she's enthusiastic, she's game for everything.
Yeah.
At the very least, she's going to entertain the hell out of us. Give us something to tune into every week, and not just rock up in board shorts and flip-flops and expect to be the most desirable person in the room, you know?
Yeah.
She will show up for the show. That I don't doubt at all. I hope they get a decent batch of men for her, because we already know the South African man's struggle is so real. Even finding one, decent one.
Even imagine 22. I can't.
22 decent South African men. Where are you going to find that? How are they even going to, quality control? So that is the only part I'm worried about. I'm worried that, the quality of men may not be to Qiniso's level, because she is phenomenal. But I think even in that is the reality of the South African woman dating in this country, where you are going to have to wade through the mud to get to the love of your life, because we're all wading through the mud, and I really am excited about seeing Qiniso figuring that out, and having her own space and her own time and controlling that space and controlling that time, as opposed to working according to some other person's schedule and their whims. It's going to be all about her. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. I might actually stick to doing my live tweets and my live Insta stories now, because Qiniso is going to be interesting and entertaining. There's going to be something to talk about, basically.
And I think that she's charming enough. Like the problem I had with the previous 2 seasons is that when the exciting girls left, I lost all interest. Like, I couldn't carry on. Like, I mean, I had to, but it took a lot out of me to finish it.
You had a professional obligation.
Yeah, I had a professional obligation, but it took a lot, because it was so, like, I wasn't interested in the guy. Like, he was just too sourceless.
That was, for me, also the big thing, where I need you as the lead of the show, as the Bachelor or the Bachelorette, to feel like the Bachelor or the Bachelorette.
Yeah.
So you come into dates with energy, my babes. You go to group dates, and I need to see you interacting with people, getting excited about people, just showing some life, And
just be more creative. Those dates were so, especially, I mean, I don't remember the first season as well, because I enjoyed watching that. But the second season, oh my gosh, the dates were so so boring.
And how can you have boring dates when the pandemic hadn't even hit yet?
Exactly. Like, I've seen the American ones. They go on helicopters. They do fun things.
They travel overseas. They go to exotic locations. There wasn't enough of that. I love a good romantic story, right? Where the couple takes us on a journey and they end up happily ever after at the end of the show. And I think what our Bachelor series lacked was romance. It lacked adventure. It lacked kind of the passion. Do you know what I mean? Where we were hooked on either one storyline or multiple storylines,
Yeah. So I think, like, the editing, the way that the direction of the show went, like, they should have, that the American ones are heavily edited, and they do the most, they edit in the problematic parts. They get this one to say something that's going to cause controversy. Like, do that. But, like, I mean, the second season, the girls really brought it a lot at the time. Like, and I'm sure, like for both of us, that's what kept us watching. That's what kept the live tweets. I mean, the audience made that show because it was so exciting. The girls were fighting over this one saying whiskey is for skinny girls. This one, this one crying about that. Like,
At the very least, create characters where, you know, you either love or you hate, but you're feeling something, right? You know, where you tune in every week, I'm like, oh, she's still in the show. She frustrates me so much, but I'm watching.
Yes.
Or this one who I'm like, oh, she's obviously going to win in the end. You know, clearly she's the favorite. She's such a sweet girl. Like all of these characters that people fall in love with for various reasons. That part of the production is so, so important with a show like this.
Yeah.
You know, where it's not just about the lead. Yes, I mean, the lead plays a very important role in holding it all together, because you need the prize, you know.
Yeah.
The diamond at the end needs to be worth it. Okay. And if you've got a piece of coal in board shorts at the end, it's not really the journey is not worth it. The trauma is not worth it.
Exactly. Oh no, gosh. But it's like I remember before Mark season, they were saying, Mnet was saying about how difficult it was for them to find a bachelor. And now I'm like, now you're finding 22.
22.
I'm hoping like guys are like, okay, she is beautiful. I want to be with her. This is why I'm entering. I hope that's we might get
because
better.
we also know the flip side of shows like this, where a lot of people enter them to get their Instagram followers up, to get their influencer careers up and running, so that they can promote their flat tummy teas. So I get that too. So I understand the challenge with Mnet and trying to get contestants that at the very least want to fall in love. You know, there's an openness to fall in love. And I think there's probably going to be a few guys who will surprise themselves at how much into the process they will be, you know. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm optimistic. I'm a hopeless romantic, hopeless. So I'm optimistic every time. Call me a sucker for punishment, but I'm optimistic that it's going to be a really great season.
Oh, no, I think so too. I'm actually really excited.
Yeah, me too.
So what other reality shows do you enjoy?
Okay, so this year was an unusual year because we had so much time to just watch a whole bunch of shit, you know. The first half of the year, I feel like me and Netflix were in a very intimate relationship. And then I was alone during that time. And then obviously when I was able to see my boyfriend again, we started watching things together. And one of those things was The Amazing Race. And I hadn't watched The Amazing Race for years. I hadn't kept up with it for the longest time. And he started watching old seasons. And I thought, oh my God, babe, like, what is this Amazing Race obsession? Like, why have you been sucked in? And then he got me to watch a season with him. Was I not hooked from start to finish? Did I not just move through like season 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 20, like all of them, because of the feeling that it gave me, you know? It is the most beautifully chaotic show. And to follow all of these frazzled Americans around the world, stressed out with these heavy backpacks, going from airport to bus station to train station, it made me feel so hopeful that maybe we can do this again. You know, especially now where we have limited travel and our passports are covered with dust. They haven't seen the light of day in many, many months. I think The Amazing Race just reminded me how big and beautiful the world is. And also watching it with my partner, kind of looking forward to planning our next adventure. It's just an exceptional show as well. Really, really entertaining. I mean, we speak about, you know, characters and falling in love with, you know, the lovable ones and hating the villains. And Amazing Race has that as well. And on top of that, the pressure of a race around the world. So you're fighting in Argentina. You're doing a challenge in the dunes of Namibia. You know, it's just the most amazing show. And the fact that it's still carrying on so many seasons and so many years later is testament to the quality of that show. And I'm so glad I was reminded of it again. I was like, let me put all of the Bachelor stuff aside, all of the love things aside, and just follow the Amazing
I don't know
Race.
when last I watched Amazing Race. Probably when it used to come on SABC3, like
Yes,
Survivor was off, and then it'd be like one
yes.
season Amazing Race and one season. Would you ever enter Amazing Race?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'd enter Amazing Race sooner than I'd enter something like Survivor because I
I
like
know.
toilets and I like showers. Um, and I don't like rats and snakes.
Oh no.
So I'd enter Amazing Race for sure. But the hardest decision would be who I'd take with me. Because I see so many different kinds of teams that they put together. They'll put together, mother and son, father and daughter, a married couple, friends, people who are dating, people who are on and off dating, people who are not dating anymore and want to see whether they still want to be together. So many dynamics. And a part of me thinks maybe I'll take my brother with me. He's big and strong, and we're very different. Like I'm the exuberant one, and he's kind of a bit more calm. And he'll also still be forced to love me even after the show. Whereas I think if I take my boyfriend, who's also big and strong and could really do well with me in the show, there's no guarantee that we'll be together at the end. Too much of a risk. Too much of a risk.
Yeah, I think that's actually the best decision. Somebody in your family who's forced to still interact with you afterwards.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Perfect.
And you can hear you've been thinking about this because
yeah,
that was too good of an answer.
I mean, but it's a huge decision, right? Like, even if you'll never end up on a show like The Amazing Race, I think it's such a great question to ask yourself. Who would survive with you in a race around the world? Who would still like you at the end? And would you still like them?
I actually can't guarantee any of my siblings would still want to. After that. Okay, so I'm going like back to your Twitter, but like another thing I really enjoy is your architectural digest comparison threads. So was that like something you were always like, you always used to watch it, or you were always interested in, or where did that come?
So when we were locked down for the first couple of months, that really hard lockdown, I was obviously in my apartment for large stretches of time. So I'd look around and I'd be like, oh, I'd want to change that. I want to buy this. I want to change up the space. I want to buy plants and different things to make my home a bit more homey, right? So I found myself really like hanging out in, the architectural digests and the Pinterests where, people showcase their design skills. I was watching a lot of shows around home renovation. And obviously with Arc Digest, they come out every month, and usually a celebrity on the cover who's showing their big, beautiful home in the Hollywood Hills, or there's, Soho Loft in New York. And I thought, this is so pretty. It's so pretty. And then one day they released Kendall Jenner's edition of Arc Digest. She has a really, really beautiful home. And I remembered that Kylie was also featured in Arc Digest, and her style was very, very different to Kendall's style. And I thought, it's the internet. Let me pit two Jenners against one another. People will love this. So it was kind of more of a joke at the beginning because I was on those pages, and then obviously loving celeb culture as well. I kind of put two and two together and did that thread, not knowing that it was going to, get people excited. And it did, because, people obviously follow the Jenners. People love home decor, and you put two side by side, it's a winner. And so I did that, not thinking it would become a series. And then it kind of gained popularity a bit when I started looking a bit more into the different kinds of homes that celebrities have, their personalities, kind of pitting two celebrities whose sometimes their aesthetics are similar, but they make different design choices. And, putting them against one another, and people also learning what kind of aesthetic they like or they enjoy, which was fun for me as well, and trying to get that conversation going too, which was really, really cool. So no, I mean, I've been a bit slack lately with another thread, but I'm definitely going to pick it up again because people really enjoyed it. I enjoy putting them together. I mean, with Arc Digest, they've got incredible images and they feature amazing homes, and it could go on forever and ever and ever and ever until I too get my mansion on the Hollywood Hills.
Which one was like your favorite? Do you have one?
Oh gosh, that's such a hard question. Because I still don't feel like I completely know the kind of style that I like. I mean, Jason Statham's Malibu beach house was so beautiful and so surprising. I mean, it's Jason Statham. He bashes people around for a living, and he has this serene, modern, simply beautiful home in Malibu. And for me, that home, the moment I saw the pictures, it brought me peace, in the sense of I could see myself in all of the rooms, in all of the spaces. I could see myself reading in his in a little nook, making breakfast in his kitchen, like not creepy at all. At all. So
just like he comes home one day.
Yeah, and I'm making eggs.
I make breakfast for both of us.
Oh man. So I think I really, really enjoyed his home. And then there's sometimes where I feel like, those celebrities who really have a specific aesthetic that, either it's a lot of stuff, or a very 70s leaning kind of look. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I really like the different decisions they made there because this is very unique and very very special. Like Dakota Johnson, for example.
Oh, her kitchen was my fave.
Just so beautiful. And I don't know if I would have been able to do that for myself, but seeing that, like how she put that together, I'm like, oh, okay, like it's possible. She really has an incredible home, and she fits her home. Her personality fits her home. And that for me is also cool because you can see that she had a hand in creating that space for herself.
So the last time we spoke about like how heavy Chadwick Boseman's death was. So so I just wanted to maybe speak a bit more about like, I mean, it was like one of the most, I feel like I'm still sad about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, it was just such a hectic moment this year. Like maybe, we can speak a bit like about how important like the role he played was.
So it was a blow, hey? It was a really, really big blow. And there'll be days where I'll remember that he's no longer here, and it'll shock me like the first time I heard the news. I mean, we lost him all the way back in August now, and recently it was his birthday. And you were kind of re-traumatized by the loss of Chadwick. And I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon, where your heart kind of feels this immense loss and pain when you hear his name, when you're reminded that his last project is coming out, or his last magazine cover is out, and like all of these things that remind us that he was here. That loss, I don't think, will ever go away. And for me, I think the hardest thing dealing with the fact that we won't see him anymore is just how much more he had left in him, and just by how hard he worked when he was here and was ill, and how much he gave us when he was here. And clearly he was doing it for the love, the passion, the respect for the art, and obviously still wanted to work more and do more and produce more. And how every project that he involved himself in was so deliberate and so I don't know, it was so thoughtful.
Mm.
His work was so thoughtful. Even in a big, shiny franchise like Marvel with Black Panther, it still felt deeply intimate,
Yeah.
And that's Chadwick. That was what every part of his career felt like. It really felt like a personal relationship. And when we heard the news of his death, we were all kind of numb.
Yeah.
That was the general feeling around the world, where we'd been punched in the gut. And I don't know, I will always have the work that he left behind, obviously, and the projects that have still to be released. But it really just felt like the beginning.
Yeah.
The coming into his superstardom. And even then, he was still the regular guy,
Yeah.
It's still very, very sad. And I'm very thankful that he gave us the gift of working through his illness. Because I think about that sometimes, I'll watch different projects of his and I think, how much pain was he in? Was he taking care of himself, or did he leave it all on set for us, for the craft, and that also, touches my heart, that he really was about the work. He really was about the culture.
Yeah. And it's like, and it's still the fact that like nobody knew he was ill. Like can you imagine like living with that and not being able to tell anyone? I still haven't seen the I know the MTV did like a tribute thing with Robert Downey and stuff. I couldn't watch it. I was
I can't,
like I clicked on it and then I was just like I couldn't. It's like still feels so fresh, like the wound.
So fresh, so raw. I know he has a movie out with Viola Davis coming out soon. Yeah, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. And I'm not ready to see that either. Just from watching the trailer, obviously, and hearing Viola talk about working with Chadwick, this role and what he gave to this role, I don't think I'm ready to see him on the big screen like that yet. It's going to be very difficult.
And also knowing that after this, that there'll be no more.
There'll be no more. Yeah. The finality of it. And also working with someone like Viola as well, who is also equally brilliant and so important to Black culture. And now seeing them together up there, come on. Give us a break, Give us a break.
Oh my gosh, I'm sad again. Okay, but I also bought this episode. It's my own fault, but still.
It's your fault. Yeah, you did this. You did this.
Okay. So, let's on to happier topics. So what would you say is your all-time favorite series?
Oh, you can't ask that.
Okay, you can give me 3.
You can't ask that. Oh man, I watch so many things. So many things that, it's like asking book lovers, I guess, their favorite books, and movie lovers, their favorite movies. You love different shows at different times in your life for different reasons. I'm gonna have to think about that. I know the internet hates Friends at the moment. There's like a Friends hatred. For me, when Friends was on growing up, watching it, that was the pinnacle of escapism for me.
Yeah.
That was happy TV watching time, And I think with a show like that, which obviously ages and there's different generations that are introduced to it, some like it, some are not liking it, some are falling out of love with it, some people are falling in love with it. That for me represents still a powerful pop culture moment, And I think Friends is that. Like, it is a pop culture juggernaut.
Yeah.
And they were paid handsomely for it. So, they got their coins and their flowers. And so I will still put Friends up there in terms of what it represented for me growing up, in terms of being introduced to sitcom television, and a really successful project. It was a successful project.
And
I
think, I mean, I understand a lot of the criticism of it, and obviously things get dated. But I put an episode recently on like Comedy Central, and it was just about like the different like income disparity between the friends, like when you're in your early or mid-20s. And I'm like, that is so true. Like, some would be earning a lot, and some will be waitresses and bartenders and Phoebes or whatever she does. But and then like the whole point of the story was like they were wanting to go to a concert, and some of them couldn't afford it. And they and they didn't want like Ross to pay for everyone. And it's just like, we've all had that problem in our group of friends. And I was like, it is interesting. Like, there are some aspects of it which are so true to like the point in people's lives where they are at. Like, it might not be tackling hectic issues. Obviously, they weren't very diverse. There was a lot of there's a lot of things, that a lot of jokes which are terrible now. But there is a lot. Like, you can't discourage the fact there is a lot of good like a lot of good writing, good acting, good. I mean, Jennifer Aniston is a brilliant comedic actress. Like, there's
I agree. She's one of my favorites. No, absolutely. And for me, it's like, watching it growing up as a teenager and then watching it now in my 30s. First of all, I'm really proud of myself that I was, able to enjoy it at the age that I did, because now it just feels like, I was like, okay, I had a realistic idea of what 30s, what the 30s would be, and a lot of that anxiety and that stress and the humor and the struggles of being in your early 30s and figuring life out still ring true with that show. And you're right, like there's still some problematic parts, and you'd struggle to find shows from when we were growing up that do age well, so for me, it's I think I also just look at it as someone who works in the media and entertainment space, where when a project really just hits the mark, it's a magical thing, and it was one of those programs.
Yeah, it was a cultural reset, as they say.
Yeah,
as the youth say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, who was your first celebrity crush?
Oh, my first celebrity crush. Oh, Chad Michael Murray. Remember when he was the teen heartthrob dude in every movie? A Cinderella Story, Freaky Friday.
Did you like him in Freaky Friday with that long hair?
I did. Because he has a beautiful face and he's just so broody. He was like playing that broody role. I mean, we'll debate whether he was a good actor or not later, but he really did the whole brooding rebel thing really, really well. And then obviously he moved on to One Tree Hill, which I really enjoyed. And I thought, oh, they're going to kill me with this guy. I love him. So he was kind of my first crush, in the sense I followed the shows that he was on and the movies that he was on. And I'd search Google Images for photos of him. I'd look at who he's dating. I'd be like, oh, what kind of girls does he like? Oh, okay, cool. Oh, he's with Sophia Bush now. Oh, they divorced. That's a shame. That gives me, a chance. So like that was my first obsessive celebrity crush.
And he's aged well. Like, he still looks pretty good.
Yeah, I saw him in Riverdale the other day. And I was like, oh, okay. You're still a snack, a mature snack, but a snack nonetheless. No, I really enjoyed it. And that's my honest answer. I mean, I could throw out Usher to you. I could do all of that, but I wasn't Googling Usher as heavily as I was Googling Chad Michael Murray.
It was around the same time, though. Like
It was. Yeah. Usher was up there. He's definitely in my top 3 celeb crushes growing up. And I followed him obsessively as well.
But thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. This was lovely and was such a great conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I feel like we could chat for 5 hours about all of the things. It was so cool to like reflect on my favorite things and what I've been up to. And so thank you for having me.
That was our interview with Sibongile Mafu. You can find her at SBOSHMAFU on Twitter and Instagram, and links to everything we discussed will be in the show notes. Before we head out this week, Rebecca, what have you been crushing on?
Hey, I have been watching The Crown. I just started with season 4. Yeah, and I got through all of the seasons in the space of 2 weeks because I became obsessed with it essentially. And now I can finally watch your YouTube, discussion with Fani Nani Pia. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. And also, I know we shouldn't have New Year's resolutions because 2020 was a bit of a mess up. And so now I'm putting this out there into the universe, but it's not a resolution. It's more like I have a plan that this year I'm going to listen to more local music. And so I will be crushing on local music this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, I watched the film Sound of Metal, which is on Amazon Prime with Riz Ahmed. Oh, it was so good. And it's about this drummer who starts to lose his hearing and and how he sort of copes with that. But it's so brilliantly done. He's excellent in the role. The sound editing, oh my gosh.
Yeah, the sound design.
Oh, it's so good. Like, as he loses his hearing, you as an audience, you start to hear less. And then it's done so artfully. Oh, it was a brilliant film.
Yeah.
And then I've also been watching the Small Axe films, which is an anthology film thing by Stephen McQueen.
Oh, nice.
Who is he directed 12 Years a Slave?
Yeah.
But anyway, it's 5 or 6 films about the West Indian, Caribbean Black experience in the UK through different decades. It's really good. I've seen 2 of the 5 or 6 films so far, and I was like completely blown away. It's like a series, but it's more like separate films that he made, but it's all different stories.
Okay, so it's not like a quintology. I thought there was another name for it.
I don't know, that's what they call it. But yeah, it's not an anthology, a trilogy or whatever, quintology. They follow on from each other. Or
okay, that makes sense.
These are like separate stories. Some of them are true stories. Some of them are fictional stories. Like it's really well
again done. What is it called?
Small Axe.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So that's what I've been into this week. My resolution is to read more because my reading last year was atrocious. I always used to do the Goodreads yearly challenge where you say, okay, I'm gonna read 10 books this year or like 50 books this year. And then this year I was like 10 books short and it was a mess. So I'm trying to consciously make more time to read.
Yeah. Can I join you on that?
Yeah. You can.
Cool.
But yeah, that's all from us. Me, you can find at Caryn Walby on Instagram, at Caryn Walbys on Twitter. And sign up for my newsletter, Wild Streams, at wildstreams.substack.com. Also, don't forget to follow us on YouTube at What's IGN Crushing On. The podcast can be found at Crushing On Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find more information about this and all our other episodes at our website, crushingonpodcast.com, and send any feedback to crushingonpod@gmail.com. Join our Facebook group, Crushing On Club, where we chat about the show, celebrity news, recommendations, the whole shebang. Let us know what you think about what was discussed in this week's episode by sending us a voice note or email to crushingonpod@gmail.com. The show is produced by me, Caryn, and Rebecca Barches. The show is edited and engineered by Rebecca Barches. Our logo was designed by Latifa Maroof. And the show was created in partnership with IGN Africa. If you like the show, tell everyone that you can any way that you can. Keep up to date with all our episodes by subscribing to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please rate and review the episodes on Apple Podcasts, as it helps others find the show. We'll be back with another in-depth conversation with a pop culture lover. See you then!